What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we will be going over one breakout candidate for every NBA team for the 26-27 season. I want to go over some of the guys that I think might be getting overlooked or maybe undervalued in terms of what their impact will be for this upcoming season, whether it be maybe more minutes because someone got traded or they got traded and then they're going to be in a new role with a new team, giving you some reasons why I think they have a chance to exceed expectations. So, without further ado, let's hop right into it. First up for the Atlanta Hawks, I think Aaron Wiggins is in store for a pretty good season for Atlanta. Uh, After getting moved from the Thunder this offseason to the Atlanta Hawks for a couple second round picks, I think Wiggins fits in really well with Atlanta's play style and definitely gives them some much needed wing depth and shooting on the perimeter to kind of complement their existing pieces already. Wiggins averaged 9 points, 3 rebounds, and almost 2 assists per game this past season, shooting 43% from the field and almost 36% from three. But in 24-25, Wiggins averaged 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting almost 49% from the field, 38 from three, and 83% from the line. So I think he can get back to, those good shooting splits and be a very efficient shooter for the Hawks. He also is joined by his former OKC teammate Lou Dort in Atlanta as well. So they pick up a couple of wings from the Thunder this offseason. And I think Atlanta is definitely going to be a really exciting team to watch this season. I think they added, some really smart pieces, kind of worked on the margins a little bit. So I'm excited to see kind of how they all fit together. And my backup, I guess, breakout candidate would probably be their rookie Kingston Flemings, who I think, not necessarily a breakout because he's a rookie, but I think he could have a really good season and be, one of the best rookies, right from the jump. But I think Aaron Wiggins is definitely in line for, I guess, kind of a bounce back season in Atlanta. Next up for the Boston Celtics, I have Ron Harper Jr. as my breakout candidate for them. Now, Ron only played in 29 games for them this past season, averaging 4 points, almost 2 rebounds, and an assist per game, shooting 42% from the field and 35% from three. And in the playoffs, he only got 4 minutes a game, didn't really have too much of an impact on there, although he did start in game seven, I believe, for them. But I do think that Ron has a chance to have a much larger role this season. He did get a nice extension from the Celtics on a new 3-year deal for them, worth about $9 million total. So I think he's definitely going to be a big part of their rotation going forward, and especially, for this season. Having moved on from Jaylen Brown, I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities for, other guys to kind of fill in the shot attempts and get some more, looks for them. And I think Harper really fits the Celtics play style well as kind of a 3-and-D complementary wing who can do a little bit of everything. He can defend, he can handle the ball a little bit and facilitate. I think he works really well around their core of Jason Tatum, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard. So I do think that Harper is in store for, a much larger role this season. I think a lot of people would probably pick Hugo Gonzalez as, a breakout candidate, and I do think that Hugo will probably, take a jump this season. But I do think that Ron is maybe a little bit more of a reliable offensive threat and could be, more useful for the Celtics, especially in the playoffs. So I am going with Ron Harper Jr. To have a pretty big season relative, as maybe like the eighth guy in their rotation, and especially an important piece for the playoffs. Next up for the Brooklyn Nets, I have Yegor Drummond, who I think is going to take a pretty big leap this season. For the Nets in his rookie season, he averaged 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists on 40% from the field, almost 39% from three, and 83% from line. And he had a really good summer league, averaging 21, 4, and 4. So I think he's definitely in line for, a pretty big jump in terms of production for this season. And, it was interesting, coming out of the draft last year to kind of find what Yegor's role was going to be. Was he going to be more on the ball? Was he going to be kind of more of a facilitator, or kind of more of an off the ball threat? And that's really where he excelled, as kind of being an off the ball threat and, a really good shooter. Took over 6 threes per game this past season. So I think having the addition of a true point guard and facilitator in Michael Brown in the backcourt next to Drummond can really, help his game out a lot. I think he's going to, get a ton of open looks with, Brown Michael Porter Jr., Julius Randle now on the team. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how he fits into, like, scoring option wise, if he's going to be a priority for the Nets this season, if they're going to try to look to get him more volume and more shot attempts. But I do think that he is in store to maybe average somewhere close to like 15 points per game, and be just a reliable catch and shoot threat for the Nets this season. So I'm excited to see what he can do in his sophomore year. Next up for the Charlotte Hornets, another guy coming off a very impressive summer league campaign is going to be Liam McNeely, another year two player as well. Last year, McNeely played in 31 games for the Hornets, averaging 4 points and 2 rebounds per game, shooting 40% from the field and 40% from three, as well as 82% from the line. Now, he only got 12 minutes a game, and most of those minutes were in garbage time. However, he did look really good in summer league, averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, and shooting 53% from three, which was really impressive stuff for him. He was named to NBA Summer League second team, and he also looked really good in the kind of large sample size that we saw him in the G League with the Greensboro Swarm this past season, where he helped them, win the G League championship as well. So I think, sometimes, especially for like kind of rookie shooters, it takes them a little bit to adjust. Some getting used to, the NBA style. And I think, that's definitely what happened for McNeely. But he looked a lot more comfortable out there in Summer League. He was able to put the ball on the floor a little bit and be more of a shot creator as well, which I think he will need to continue to develop. But, with the Hornets trading away LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, that definitely frees up a lot more opportunities and shot attempts for other guys to kind of step in. And the Hornets, their game plan is pretty obvious. They are going to get up a lot of threes with Con Knipple, Brandon Miller, Naz Reid, Grayson Allen, Christian Anderson, McNeely as well. So I think it's a perfect fit for Liam to just, be able to be a catch and shoot threat, be a complementary scoring piece next to those guys. And I think it sets him up for a really interesting and hopefully exciting year two for Liam McNeely. Next up for the Chicago Bulls, a guy that they got in an off-season trade, Nick Claxton, who I thought was a pretty good pickup for Chicago, getting him for, I think, just like a second-round pick as part of that Julius Randle trade. He averaged 12.7 rebounds, 4 assists, and over a block per game last season, shooting 57% from the field, up to actually 62% from the line, which was up 10% from last season. So trending in the right direction there. But overall, I think Claxton could be a lot more effective in Chicago this season. And a lot of that has to do with Josh Giddey being able to be a really good, facilitator and floor general, being able to work in the pick and roll with Claxton. And, Claxton can, be a really great lob threat. So I think that's going to really help Claxton's game a lot, having that kind of true point guard and facilitator that they were kind of lacking in Brooklyn, last season. And I think also playing along guys with a ton of athleticism like Matas Buzelis and Caleb Wilson in the forward positions can help out Claxton a lot, being able to use, their size and athleticism to get out and run in transition. I think it's going to be a really fun team to see in transition this season. So, yeah, I'm excited to see, kind of how Chicago looks with a lot of new faces, a new coach in Tiago Splitter. And yeah, I don't know, how good they're going to be, but I think they're going to be a fun watch, fun league pass team. And I think that Claxton can definitely have an improved season from what he did last year in Brooklyn. Next up for the Cavaliers, I'm excited to see Jalen Tyson in year three now. He kind of had a breakout season last year, averaging 13 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 49 from the field, almost 45% from three, and 74% from the line. Although he was not great in the playoffs, only averaging 4 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist, shooting 36 from the field and less than 25% from three, which is definitely not ideal for Tyson. But I think, Tyson showed a lot of great two-way, capability as, that solid connective piece next to, Harden and Mitchell in the backcourt, and then Mobley and Allen in the front court. I definitely think, by the end of the season, there's a chance that he's the starting small forward over, Max Strus or, Mario Hazonia, although I don't think Hazonia will probably be starting for them. But yeah, I like Tyson's, intensity on both ends of the court. I think he's a solid athlete. He's a great glue guy. he knows kind of when to pick his spots. He's, can be aggressive, or he can, kind of delegate, obviously to Mitchell, Harden, and Mobley. Um, Probably like at most the fourth scoring option when everyone is fully healthy. But I think that, going forward, and kind of just getting more comfortable in his role with the Cavaliers is going to help him continue to grow and learn. Hopefully, he can get more postseason experience again this year and be have a better performance than he did in the playoffs. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what Tyson can do. And like I said, I would not be surprised if he is the starting small forward sooner rather than later for Cleveland. Next up for the Dallas Mavericks, I'm excited to see what Zachary Reese-Hachey can do for them after they traded for him this offseason. Reese-Hachey definitely had a sophomore slump second season, averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist per game, 45 and a half from the field, almost 37% from three, but only 64% from the line. And his scoring was 3 points less than last season, and he was down in efficiency from the field and also from the free throw line. So definitely, a season to forget for Reese Hachey. And I was definitely surprised that the Hawks, decided to move on from him that quickly after, being the number one pick, 2 seasons ago. So I think this was, a great value pickup for the Mavericks. I'm excited to see, what he can do next to, the creators like Kyrie, Cooper Flag. Um, they also picked up, other guys. They picked up Morris Johnson in the draft, Santi Aldama. They still have like Max Christie, Najee Marshall, who they just extended as well. So I think it's going to be a fun team in Dallas. And I think that Reese Hachey just kind of gets a fresh start, maybe not as much pressure as being the number one pick, and can kind of just, fit in his role as kind of more of a 3-and-D off ball kind of just complementary piece, which I think, he's definitely capable of doing. And I'm excited to see what the Mavericks can do. They have a lot of, size and length on the wing. So I think it'll be a fun team to watch this year. Next up for the Denver Nuggets, I have Marvin Bagley. So maybe an interesting, player to pick as a breakout candidate, as obviously I think he's going into year 9 now. But I think this new role as possibly, the true backup big behind Jokic could really fit. Bagley had a pretty productive season last year, averaging 10.5 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, shooting 62% from the field and 46% from three on about an attempt per game. So that was, pretty impressive stuff for Bagley. He played with the Wizards and the Mavericks last season. And, obviously for the Nuggets, uh, you know, the addition of Valanciunas for last season, that was kind of supposed to be the answer and kind of be, help out with the non-Jokic minutes. And that really did not work out for them, especially in the playoffs last year. It was kind of a disaster out there. Um, I think that Bagley can hopefully bring some stability behind Jokic and be just a productive player when Jokic is, off the court. I think, he's obviously more of an offensive big, and I think that the offense, for Denver can be somewhat sustainable without, Jokic on the court and with Bagley in it. Obviously, it's not going to be the same. He's not the same player, but I think he can, still do some of the same things and help out, spacing the floor, being a solid facilitator, pretty good rebounder as well. And I think that, he could really help out Denver's team in depth a lot. So I'm excited to see what he can do in year 9 with hopefully, a fresh start and a new role with the Nuggets. Next up for the Detroit Pistons, another guy who was traded this offseason, Isaiah Joe from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Joe, this past season, played in 71 games, averaged 11 points, 2.5 rebounds, 1.3 assists per game, shooting 45 from the field, 42% from three, and 89% from the line. So definitely, helping out with Detroit's spacing, and it's just going to be a great complementary shooter, next to Cade and next to, maybe Jalen Duren, as he still has not re-signed yet. But I definitely think he's going to be a good piece for the Pistons going forward. He kind of got bumped out of the rotation in OKC's playoff run this season just because, the depth, they're trying to figure out the matchups and stuff like that. But I think he's definitely going to be a valuable piece. He looked really good in the regular season. And I think, with the Pistons, he'll be able to show a little bit more of his ability to, create off the bounce, and definitely will get a lot of good looks playing next to Cade. Um, I think it's going to be a really good fit for the Pistons. They do have kind of a lot of the similar archetypes, with Duncan Robinson and Kevin Herter. So it'll be interesting to see if they decide to keep all three of those guys in the rotation, if they look to either cut or move one of either Herter and Robinson, as they gave up a couple second round picks for Joe. So I think they'll definitely keep him in the rotation. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Joe can do in a bit of a fresh start with the Pistons this year. Next up for the Golden State Warriors, I'm excited to see year two Will Richard. Richard played in 69 games this past season, averaging 6 points, 2.5 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal per game, shooting 47% from the field and about 34% from three, 85% from the line as well. And I think Richard is just, a really smart complementary kind of off-ball shooting piece for the Warriors. He has a kind of a good feel of when to, move without the ball, be in the right place at the right time, and just, a good shooter to help space the floor and complement, their guys like Curry, Draymond, Porzingis, and, Jimmy Butler when he's healthy. I think it'll be interesting to see how they kind of fit in Yaxel to the mix with all of this. I'm assuming Yaxel might start at like the three to start the season without Jimmy Butler, as he's recovering from his injury this past season. And then I think Will Richard will probably be like one of the first guys off the bench, especially without Moses Moody. He's also injured for probably this whole season, I think. So I think he'll definitely, Richard will definitely have an expanded role and will get, more opportunities. And I think he'll definitely be able to capitalize. I think he fits what like the Warriors kind of do. He's just a smart kind of high IQ basketball player. They do a pretty decent job of like hitting on the margin, getting these like undrafted guys. I just hope that, their main guys like Curry, Porzingis, and Jimmy Butler, when he does recover from his injury, are able to stay on the court and don't put too much pressure on these like undrafted guys who are making like 1% of their salary cap. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Will Richard can do this season. Next up for the Houston Rockets, I have Tari Eason, who I think was probably my breakout candidate for the Rockets last season. Maybe wasn't the best take, but I still think that he is going to be a really good player in this league, even though he is a good player already. But he got a new extension this offseason, and I think that he is poised for another really productive season for Houston. This past season he averaged 10.5 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, and a steal per game, shooting 42% from the field, 36% from three, and about 78% from the line. He was pretty solid in the playoffs too, 14 points, 7 rebounds, about 2 assists, and 2.5 steals per game, 48 from the field, 33% from three, and then 85% from the line. I think Eason is a really valuable piece for the Rockets. He's a really good defender. And, him and Amen Thompson, when they're in the game together, are, super disruptive duo. And I think the Rockets can be, again, one of the better defensive teams in the league. It'll be interesting to see if they have, enough creation and shooting to, kind of help out, as we kind of saw in the playoffs, especially that was the main problem and the main reason that they weren't able to, advance and beat the Lakers in the first round. But hopefully with, Fred VanVleet coming back, they added, Marcus Smart. They added, Bruce Thornton in the draft. That's, 3 more guards this season that they, really didn't have last season. So hopefully more creation, more opportunities for Tari Eason to get, catch and shoot looks and be able to kind of slash and attack the basket, which he's really good at. So yeah, I think Eason is in line for another productive season this year. Next up for the Indiana Pacers, I have Andrew Nembhard, who definitely arguably had more of like a breakout season this past year, and kind of flew under the radar just because the Pacers were not very competitive this season. He averaged 17 points, about 8 assists, a steal per game, as well as 3 rebounds per game, shooting 44% from the field, 36% from three, and 83% from the line. Now, obviously, that was without Tyrese Halliburton this past season, and a number of injuries through for the Pacers throughout the season. But I think that, with Halliburton coming off the Achilles injury, I think he's definitely going to take some time and maybe even like a full season to really get back to the player that he was, in the 24-25 season, leading them to game 7 of the NBA Finals. And, with that being said, I think that Nemhard has a chance to really take over more of a scoring role and really help out with some of the ball handling and, playmaking responsibilities so that, Halliburton doesn't have so much to do, right away when he gets back. And I think that Nemhard could kind of step in and be like the number 2 scoring option like he was, this season behind Pascal Siakam. So I think Nemhard can definitely do that for at least definitely like the start of the season. We'll see, how, Halliburton looks halfway through the season, post All-Star break, things like that. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what Nemhard can do. I think, he's a really solid player on both ends of the court. I love, how he's able to get into the lane. He's super strong despite his size. And I think the additions of Zubac as well as, Kelly Oubre on the perimeter were really good fits for Indiana. So I'm excited to see, how Indiana looks at full strength this year. Next up for the LA Clippers, I'm excited to watch year 2 Kobe Sanders, who was a really productive rookie for the Clippers last season, averaging 7 points, 2 rebounds, almost 2 assists per game, shooting 47% from the field, 41% from 3, and 83% from the line. He was a really efficient shooter and a great just, complementary piece around, their guys like when Harden was there, and especially with Kawhi Leonard. And Sanders also had a pretty productive summer league this past summer league that just happened. He averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 43 from the field, only 25% from 3, but he looked like more comfortable out there on both ends of the court. I definitely think he's ready to take a jump in his role and production for this season, especially without Harden there, without Kawhi Leonard now. I think Kobe Sanders could get a lot more opportunity. It's a young team with the Clippers, with Garland, Brandon Ingram, Keaton Wagler now, and I think that Kobe Sanders, is a great complementary piece to put around those guys, and I think he can do a little bit of everything out there. So I'm excited. Definitely excited to see what he can do. He got a new contract this offseason on a 4-year deal, I believe. So converting to a full-time contract just kind of shows that I think he's going to be a valuable piece going forward, as the Clippers are definitely looking to retool and rebuild a little bit this season. So I think he could potentially average somewhere in like the 12 to 14 point range this season, and I would not be surprised if he is probably like their third, maybe fourth scoring option this season. Next up for the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm definitely excited to see Adu Thero in year 2 this season. I definitely think he's going to get a lot more opportunity to kind of show what he's capable of, and hopefully we'll get just more run out there. He only played in 25 games last season, averaging only 6 minutes per game, average 2 points, 1 rebound, but looks really good in summer league. He was pretty productive, averaging 15 points per game as well as 6 rebounds, and he looked good out there. He's a extremely good athlete, really strong, powerful player, especially in transition. And I think with the Lakers existing pieces, obviously with Luka and Austin Reeves, they are definitely looking for some guys on the wing and at the forward position who can be complementary pieces and who can be good defenders to complement that backcourt, as they're obviously not the best defenders out there. And I think that fits perfectly with Thero. I think he's going to be a really good defender. He can guard, multiple positions, and I think he's got the size, strength, and athleticism to kind of match up, across the board, pretty much 1 through 4, I would say. So I think that's going to be really helpful and beneficial for the Lakers. So I definitely, hope that he's able to get more playing time this season. I was really high on him when he, coming out of the draft from Arkansas, and I still think that he's going to be a really productive player in this league. And I'm hoping that he could definitely get some more opportunity in year 2. Next up for the Memphis Grizzlies, I have Cam Spencer. Also kind of had a breakout season last year. He averaged 11 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists per game, shooting an incredible 47% from the field, 45% from 3, and 94% from the line. So, nearly 50-40-90 club, which was just, unbelievable. He's definitely one of the best shooters in the league. and he's capable. He's a capable shot creator off the bounce. He's definitely, probably more comfortable as a spot up shooter, but he can definitely, get his own shot if he has to. And I'm excited to see what he can do alongside, kind of the new look core of the Grizzlies with, Cedric Coward, Jalen Wells, Cam Boozer, Zach Edey, Ty Jerome probably starting at the point guard position. So I think, Spencer will probably be coming off the bench most of the time, but he was really productive last season. I think he's going to be a solid player in this league for a long time. Really smart, high IQ player. He's a super, hard competitor. He plays with a lot of energy on both sides of the floor every game. And yeah, I think he's just, kind of a perfect complementary piece for the Grizzlies to have alongside, their front court and their kind of young wings. So I think that, Spencer can continue to be a productive shooter for the Grizzlies. And yeah, I think he just fits really well with the rest of the Grizzlies core going forward. Next up for the Miami Heat, I have Pele Larson, who averaged 11 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game last season, shooting almost 50% from the field, 32% from three, and about 80% from the line. I think Larson is a really, really solid, complementary player and kind of just a glue guy to have in their lineup. Obviously, with the Heat acquiring Giannis, Larson's going to get a lot more minutes this season. As the Heat are definitely going to need to add a couple players to the roster. I think they have like 3 open roster spots still. So I would expect a lot of those to be, guards, creators, shooters to kind of complement Giannis and Bam in the front court. But I would not be surprised if, Pele Larson is the starting 2 or 3, kind of in that like closing lineup with Giannis and Bam in the front court. Halfway through the season or by the end of the season, I think, as long as he's able to have some sort of consistent jump shot and hopefully be able to shoot maybe close to like 35, 36% from three, I think he's going to be a perfect fit for the Heat. He's a really good defender. He's got, great size, length, strength, athleticism, good combination there. He's a really smart player. I was really high on him coming out of the draft. I think he was, definitely one of my more underrated players. So I'm happy to see that, he's worked out. He's a really good player in this league. And obviously Miami's great at kind of developing these, second round undrafted players and, putting them in spots to be successful. So I definitely think that Pele Larson can take a jump this season with Giannis and Bam. And I'm excited to see him probably be like maybe the full-time starter at the shooting guard position at one point this season. Next up for the Milwaukee Bucks, a player involved in that Giannis trade, Kel'el Ware, who looked pretty good last season, played in 77 games, averaged 11 points per game, 9 rebounds, about a steal and a block per game, shooting 53% from the field, almost 40% from three, and 74% from the line. So really productive season for Kel'el Ware there. Obviously, throughout the season, there was, a lot of rumors and talk that, him and Eric Spoelstra didn't really see eye to eye, and he kind of didn't like the play style of like him and Bam next to each other a lot of the time. So I think it'll be good for Ware to kind of just get a fresh start and kind of be able to grow and just play his style of basketball. And I would not be surprised if at some point this season he kind of takes over the starting center role, either just by playing better than Miles Turner or the Bucks looking to move on from Miles Turner, just because they're obviously going in another direction, looking to retool a little bit with that Giannis trade. They have a lot of new players, new coach, so I think it's going to be just kind of a new play style all around, and we'll see if Turner kind of fits what they're trying to build, or if they kind of look to move on from him. But I think Ware is definitely in line for another jump, and hopefully we'll get a lot of minutes at both the 4 and 5 this season. I think he can do play both positions pretty well. He can space the floor alongside, Miles Turner or, their complementary pieces in Milwaukee right now. And yeah, I think it will just be nice for Ware to kind of get a fresh start somewhere else. Next up for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I have Terrence Shannon Jr. as my breakout candidate. Now, I think a lot of people maybe thought that Shannon would have a breakout candidate a breakout season last year. But that wasn't really the case. He went from 4.3 points to 5.6 points, still only averaging about a rebound and assist per game. Shot 45% from the field. Did shoot 41% from three, which was good, 80% from the line. So was definitely efficient there. But I think that, he's definitely in line to take a big jump without, Dante DiVincenzo for next season. Obviously, without Julius Randle there, there's definitely going to be a lot more shot attempts to go around. And I think that Shannon could definitely capitalize on that and be, a productive scorer off the bench for Minnesota. I think him and Bones Highland is definitely going to be a fun kind of like backcourt duo there. As well as like Jalen Clark, Josh Green, Isaiah Evans. They have, some fun guys off the bench to kind of complement a, pretty good and talented starting five there in Minnesota. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Shannon can do and hopefully a larger role this season. He did look pretty solid in the playoffs. He averaged 12 points, about 3 rebounds, 1 assist per game. Was not very efficient, 40% from the field, 25% from three. Did shoot 92% from the line almost, so that was, pretty positive there. So I think, hopefully if he gets more chances, he can really capitalize and be a productive scorer for Minnesota off the bench this season. Next up for the New Orleans Pelicans, another member of the 2025 draft class, Micah Peavy, who I was also really high on in that draft class as well. Peavy played in 61 games last season, 15 minutes per game, averaged 4 points, about 2 rebounds, and an assist per game. Wasn't very efficient from the field or from three, 39% from the field, and then 26% from three. Shot 76% from the line, so that's definitely encouraging, and I definitely think, he could be a solid and pretty efficient shooter from all three levels in this league. He was very good in his last season at Georgetown, so I think he definitely has a chance to be a productive scorer at the NBA level. Now the Pelicans are, as of right now, running back pretty much the same team that they went 26-56 with last season. So it'll be interesting to see if he can, try to find a larger role at some point and, try to get more minutes. But I am, predicting and hoping that at some point, either at the trade deadline or early on in the season, if it's not going well for the Pelicans, that they do start to look to make some moves, whether that's moving on from Herb Jones, maybe even Zion, maybe Trey Murphy, if they can get like a haul of draft picks and young assets for him. So I think that could end up freeing up some playing time and some minutes for Micah Peavy. I definitely think he's could be a solid two-way contributor in this league. So I think he's in store for hopefully a sophomore year two jump this upcoming season. So definitely excited to see what he can do for the Pelicans. Next up for the NBA champion New York Knicks, I think Mo Diawara could have a pretty solid year two for the Knicks. He was solid, in his rookie year. Last season, he averaged 4 points, about 1.5 rebounds, almost an assist per game. Pretty efficient shooting, 42 from the field, 37 from three, 75% from the line. In the playoffs, he really didn't have that large of a role. He only played in 6 games, averaged 7 minutes per game, and wasn't, very efficient shooting the ball in the playoffs. And unfortunately, he had a very poor summer league performance. He only played in 2 games, averaged 3.5 points per game, shot 7% from the field. He was 1 for 14 through 2 appearances and was minus 26 in those 2 games. However, that's obviously only 2 game sample size, and I definitely think that he showed enough value in the regular season last year to give me the confidence that he could be a productive player in this league. And I think without Mitchell Robinson and Jeremy Sohan, who they picked up in the middle of last season, they're definitely going to need a bit of front court and forward depth help. Obviously, they picked up Andre Drummond as to be like the backup center, but I think as kind of like a backup 4, and maybe if they get in a jam with foul trouble as a backup 5, I think Diawara could get some minutes and be a productive player. There, he's a pretty good shooter. He can space the floor, and he has worked well with the Knicks core last season. So I think that he can get a little bit more minutes, a little bit more playing time, and be again a productive player for New York this season. Next up for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I have Cason Wallace taking a big jump this season. This past year, he averaged 9 points per game, 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and almost 2 steals per game, shooting 43% from the field, at 35% from three, and 81% from the line. He was also on all defensive second team this season, and he was a productive player and shooter in the playoffs. Averaged about 9 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, over 2 steals per game, 48 from the field, 48 from three, and 88% from the line. So really efficient shooter, and good catch and shoot threat, good slasher and driver off the bounce as well. And he was really the only other player other than SGA in Game 7 to step up and be there for the Thunder. And he's definitely going to have a lot more opportunities without Lou Dort, Aaron Wiggins, and Isaiah Joe, and kind of like the guard wing room. And I think that he's going to get the starting shooting guard spot, and I definitely think he fits really well, in between SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet, as just a great complementary piece. One of the best defenders in the league, super disruptive, and yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do as potentially a full-time starter this season. I definitely think that he's going to take a jump in production across the board. Average, maybe up to somewhere from like 12 to 14 points per game. So yeah, definitely excited to see year 4 Cason Wallace. Next up for the Orlando Magic, I'm excited to see year 2 Jace Richardson for them. This past season for the Magic, Richardson played in 54 games, 11 minutes per game, where he averaged 4 points, about a rebound and an assist per game, 47% from the field, 35% from three, and 72% from the line. Richardson also had a pretty good summer league this past July, where he averaged a little over 18 points per game. It was pretty efficient from both the field and from three. And he had a 25-point game against the Philadelphia 76ers, which was really impressive. He, showed a great deal of being able to create off the bounce, good catch and shoot threat, and that's definitely what the Magic are lacking and what they need. They need more perimeter shooting. They need more creation. You saw them kind of struggle with Jalen Suggs not being able to really knock down consistent perimeter shots these past couple of postseason runs. So I definitely think that Richardson has a role, somewhere on this team and in this rotation if he's able to be just a good enough defender. They got a good kind of defensive structure around Richardson to maybe hide some of his defensive flaws, and he's a little bit undersized out there. But I definitely think that I'm expecting Richardson to get more minutes and be more kind of a staple of the rotation this season. And I think that, with more opportunity and just more consistent playing time, he could really, grow and just be a consistent threat out there, which I definitely think the Magic are lacking currently. Next up for the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm going to go with Anthony Simons as a breakout candidate. That was kind of tough to pick, a breakout player because obviously Sixers had a big offseason with getting Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, obviously, and I don't think one of their starters is necessarily going to have a breakout season, and stats will probably almost all drop just because they're trying to share the ball. They have 5 great scorers out there, so I went with the guy off the bench. Now, last season, Simons for both the Bulls and the Celtics averaged 14 points, about 2.5 rebounds and 2.5 assists per game. Shot 44% from the field, almost 39% from three, and almost 90% from the line. So it was a really efficient shooter. Now, I don't know if Simons is going to, get up to 14 points per game. I don't know if he's going to get as much chances there, but I think he's going to have a chance to play in some meaningful basketball games in the postseason. He's going to get a ton of open looks from three, and, I think he's going to capitalize by being able to space the floor, knock down those shots really effectively. He's only making $6 million on this contract, so I think he has a chance to raise his value and potentially go into next free agency to get a larger contract and a larger deal to kind of prove his value, as he hasn't really played in many postseason games. So I think the chance to play on a winning basketball team is really going to help Simons' case and going to raise his value a ton. And I think he's going to be a perfect complementary shooter and creator to go along with the existing pieces that now the 76ers have. Next up for the Phoenix Suns, probably a popular pick after the summer league that he had. I'm going with Kaman Maluach. In his rookie season, he averaged 3 points, 3 rebounds, zero point 0.7 blocks per game. He shot 53% from the field, only 24% from three, 71% from the line. He only played in 46 games with 9 minutes per game, so really didn't get a ton of consistent minutes in his rookie season. However, he was absolutely dominant this past summer league. He averaged 20 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game. Shot 53% from the field and 40% from three. Yeah, he was just dominant. I think he had a double-double in every single game. And yeah, he was definitely in the category of too good for summer league very quickly. And I think he definitely has a chance to get more consistent minutes. They have three pretty good centers in Phoenix with Maluach, Mark Williams, and Oso Ighodaro. So it would be interesting to see if Maluach is like the true backup five behind Mark Williams to start the season, or if he's still going to share the minutes with Ighodaro. I think at some point we could see Maluach maybe even take over the starting center position. So it'll kind of be interesting to see just how he looks against NBA competition in the regular season. Obviously, he looked good in summer league, but sometimes that doesn't always translate. But I definitely am high on Maluach. He's definitely a really good rim protector, really good athlete for being 7'1", and I think he is going to fit really well next to their four other starters in Jalen Green, Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks, and Miles Bridges to be able to kind of anchor the paint and be effective offensively as a lob threat. So yeah, I definitely think he's in store for a breakout year 2. Next up for the Portland Trailblazers, another center. I definitely have Donovan Clingan as I guess, potential breakout for this season, although he did kind of have a breakout last season. For Portland, last year he played in 77 games, averaged 12 points, almost 12 rebounds per game, 2 assists, almost 2 blocks per game, shooting 52% from the field, 34% from 3-on-3 attempts per game was pretty solid, 68% from the line in 27 minutes per game. However, in the playoffs, he was not very good. Obviously, going against Wemby, he averaged 7 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, but shot 30% from the field, 20% from three, and only 50% from line. So definitely was not great there. But I definitely think that Clingan has the chance to, be one of the best defenders in this league. Definitely already one of the best, rim protectors and shot blockers. But I think, he could take it up another step by just his ability to, move at his size. He's got great timing and instincts to be a shot blocker, and he's a pretty good post defender as well. And I think he could, potentially make an all defensive team this season, and continue to increase his numbers and be more effective around the rim. He's got a ton of creators, and Portland has a ton of guards to get him open looks in the dunker spot and in the pick and roll. In John Morant, in Damian Lillard coming back this season, Drew Holiday, Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp, and then obviously Denny as well being a good creator for him. So I think Donovan has a ton of creators around him to get an open looks from not only spot up threes but also around the rim. So I think he's in a really good spot to be effective in his year 3 season. Next up for the Sacramento Kings, I definitely think that Maxime Reynaud can break out again in his sophomore season. He definitely was one of the more surprising, rookie seasons last year. He was on all rookie second team or first team this past season as a second round pick. And he was really good. He played in 74 games. He averaged 12.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, and assists and a half per game, shooting 57% from the field, 32% from three, and 79% for the line. So a really effective, player there. Obviously, the Kings dealt with a lot of injuries, and Maxime got a lot of chances because Sabonis was injured for most of the season last year, and he was, one of the only bigs that was available for them. So with Sabonis back, he might be coming off the bench, at least to start this season. But I'm hoping that at some point Sabonis might be able to get flipped or get traded to hopefully a contender, which would allow Maxime to get, more minutes and be the starter again. And I think that Maxime will definitely benefit from having, Darius Acuff be the primary creator and ball handler. I think that, that provides a lot more chances for Maxime to play off the ball, be able to, work in the pick and roll with him and get, easy looks at the basket. And I think that just, the young talent that Sacramento is trying to build up, hopefully, with moving on from Levine and Sabonis at one point, and, getting more shooting around Maxime with Acuff, Emmanuel Sharp, Alex Caravan, that can really help Maxime's game as well. So I think he's in store for another really good season, and I think he can continue to build on what he did in his rookie season. Next up for the San Antonio Spurs, I think Carter Bryant could be in for a big year two. This past season, in his rookie year, he played in 71 games. He averaged 4 points, 2.5 rebounds, about 0.7 assists per game, shooting 41% from the field, about 34% from three, 71% from the line. So nothing crazy like shooting efficiency wise. He also did play in 2 summer league games this season, averaged about 15 points per game. Had one game where he was 7 for 10, pretty efficient, 2 for 2 from three. Another game where he wasn't as efficient, 4 for 13 and only 1 for 7 from three. But again, small sample size. But we saw, Carter Bryant's value definitely on the defensive end throughout the season and especially the playoffs. Really good, size and length to guard multiple positions at a high level. He was thrown on, SGA and Brunson in the Western Conference Finals and NBA Finals. Held his own, and I definitely think with more experience, he'll learn, not to pick up dumb fouls or not to foul when they're dribbling the ball up. And he's picking them up full court. I definitely think with time, he'll definitely get smarter there. And I just think with, more time, being able to play in high pressure situations, that's only going to continue to help him grow as a player. He's really smart on both ends of the court, and I think that's going to continue to translate. I definitely think that Dylan Harper would probably be a popular pick for a breakout candidate season, and I definitely think that he will have a, I guess, quote unquote, breakout season. But I think maybe a little bit more under the radar could be Carter Bryant here. So I think that he's definitely going to continue to improve in year two. Next up for the Toronto Raptors, another member of the 2025 draft class, Colin Murray-Boyles, who was really productive this past season for Toronto. I think he was on all-rookie second team. Last year, he averaged 8.5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and almost a steal and block per game. He shot 58% from the field, 34% from three, and 66% from line. And then in the playoffs, he was really good, averaged 14 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, over a steal and block per game, shooting 66% from the field. Didn't attempt a three, or I think he attempted maybe like 1 or 2 threes, didn't make any of them, but shot 77% from the line, which was definitely very impressive. And, obviously with the Raptors picking up Kawhi Leonard, hopefully if that trade does end up going through at some point, they're definitely, one of the favorites to come out of the East, and are definitely expected to at least advance one round in the playoffs. So it would be interesting to kind of see how Colin Murray-Boyles' role changes this season. Is he going to start at the 5? I'm not exactly sure if he's going to be able to kind of be the full-time starter, just because he's a little undersized, and that could, have its impacts if he's kind of matching up against just like bigger, larger physical players, the entire regular season. So I think Jakob Poeltl still might be the starting center, but I would expect Colin Murray-Boyles to probably, just get more playing time than Poeltl throughout the season, just because Poeltl was not good in the playoffs. And I think that Colin Murray-Boyles has a chance to, be a really good player in this league. He's obviously a super disruptive defender, can kind of do a number of things on both ends of the court. So I'm excited to see what he can do in his sophomore season with Toronto. Next up, another member of the 2025 draft class, the number 5 pick in that draft. Another member of the all-rookie team as well, Ace Bailey of the Utah Jazz. In his rookie season, he played in 72 games, averaged 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists per game, shot 44% from the field, 34% from three, and 75% from the line, and looked really good in the second half of the season. That was really promising to see him continue to develop as, a shot maker, creator, and just an all-around kind of versatile wing. I probably would expect Ace to come off the bench at least to start the season. I would expect Keontae, Darren Peterson, Markkanen, Triple J, and then Nurkic to be the starting five, and then Ace Bailey would be kind of the sixth man, and maybe even be in the closing lineups without Nurkic probably. But I think Ace is in line for a pretty good sophomore season. Just getting more time to develop on both ends of the court and having more pieces around him that can continue to be, effective creators. Adding Darren Peterson, adding a full season of Jaren Jackson Jr., and, Markkanen around him to go alongside Keontae George, I think can really help Ace out. To set him up for open looks, but also be effective scorers to help him out as a creator as well. I think Ace, has all the tools and potential in the world to be one of the best, wings and, a really productive scorer in this league. So I think he's going to continue to get better. And I'm really excited to see what he can do in Utah in year 2. Lastly, for the Washington Wizards, I'm definitely excited to see year 2 Will Riley, another member of the 2025 draft class. You can kind of tell that I was very high on that draft class, and I think a lot of those guys are going to be productive players in the NBA. But for Riley, his rookie season, he was very productive. He played in 74 games. He averaged 10 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists per game, shot 44% from the field, 32% from three, and 80% from the line. And he was absolutely incredible in his 2 games in Summer League. This season, he averaged 25 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game, shooting 54% from the field and 70% from three. So yeah, looked really good in those 2 games. And I think, with the Wizards definitely trying to be more competitive this season, I think Will Riley has a chance to just kind of fill in and be a really productive complementary piece alongside, Trae Young, AJ, Anthony Davis, Alex Sarr. I think he could be a really good spot up shooter. He's a solid defender. He's got great size and length to be kind of just a really effective role player. And I think, he has a chance to find his role and hopefully, play for a more competitive team this season in Washington. I think that can really help his game as well. So I'm excited to see what Will Riley can do in year 2 for the Wizards. So, with that being said, that concludes the breakout candidates for each team for the 26-27 team. Let me know what you guys think of my picks in the comments if you agree with your team or if you think there's maybe another option. I definitely think there could be multiple options for some of these teams. So, let me know who you guys see kind of breaking out for this upcoming season. But that is going to be it for me today, everyone. If you did like this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.